Back on Team Talk, ESPN Radio 1017, the team, Sam Hauser, Scott Galletti, as we go out to the Daniels Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline. Always enjoy having Seth Greenberg on the show to talk college basketball and, of course, getting ready for the NBA draft tomorrow. So, Seth, we talked to you last year right before the draft lottery, and obviously, we saw how that draft played out. But just looking at this one here with Ball, with James Wiseman, so much talent in this draft. How does this one? I mean, certainly we have to let these guys' careers play out. But just looking at the draft as it stands now, how does this one compare to you from recent memory?
Well, it's different. There's no Zion Williamson in the draft. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think, and the draft is deep, but not as doesn't have that one guy say, well, that guy's a can't miss. I mean, that's going to happen. So a lot of things happen. You got to evaluate. The hardest thing about this draft is you got a ton of tape, so you can evaluate the player. That's not the issue. You got to evaluate the person without having that one-on-one interview, without having a chance to sit and have dinner with him, a chance to look at him in his eye, try to have a better feel for what the essence of that person is and how he fit in your locker room. So it's unique. These kids have had 8 months since their season ended. First, probably 2.5. They really didn't have an opportunity to do much. Then eventually, when they decided to put their name in the draft, I think they're waiting till the week before Thanksgiving for the draft. In 2 weeks or so, they're going to be in a training camp without NBA Summer League, without a better understanding maybe of playing games in those rules, without maybe having that experience of having success playing in the summer league against a bunch of guys that won't be in the league. So, it's a unique time, but I think there's a lot of value in the draft, and everyone gets caught up in the first 3 picks. I don't get caught up in the first 3 picks. There's more than 3 teams drafted. There can be 60 players drafted. Some will overperform, some will underperform, and that's why the interviews and things of that nature, missing those is huge.
Right, and that's why we always enjoy listening to your analysis and all the ESPN coverage ahead of the NBA draft, which we'll have tomorrow starting at 5:30 here on ESPN Radio 1017, The Team. You talk about how long it's been, Seth, since these guys have played, and certainly the case, for James Wiseman. His career at Memphis ends early before everybody else's season ends. Just from what we were able to see from James Wiseman, this season, and just everything he brings to the table, what stands out to you the most as far as translating to the NBA and how effective you think he can be right away, even considering, like you said, all these things that are going against guys, not having the summer league and practice and all these things, but just as far as what translates to the NBA for James Wiseman, what do you like about him?
Well, he's a 7-footer with a 7'5" wingspan. He can run the floor. He's agile where he can switch ball screens. You can put him in the dunker spot. He can short roll. He's going to be able to shoot it at least to the elbow, maybe deeper, so he can pick and pop. He really can run the floor. So, I think he's a really interesting prospect. You got to decide if you're Minnesota, do you think you can play 2 bigs together? Can you defend 2 bigs together? Can you be bold enough to play differently? If not, then you go in another direction. If so, you draft him. And that's kind of what's got to go through their mindset.
Seth Greenberg on the Daniels Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline here on Team Talk. And, Seth, when you look at especially the top 10, who stands out to you in terms of the young guys like Wiseman, who was a freshman last year, and some of the other guys who you believe can step right into the NBA and make an impact?
Yeah, I think that, I love Onyeka Okongwu. I think he's a professional rebounder. He's not Bam Adebayo because he doesn't have the ball skills of a Bam. He can't initiate your offense in transition or bring the ball up the floor, but he can rebound, he can post defend, he can protect the rim. He's physically ready to play. I think he's going to be terrific. I think Patrick Williams, I'm not sure of year one, but Patrick Williams has a chance to be, Paul George maybe. I mean, 6'8", puts it on the floor, can shoot it, really good defender, very active. I think he's got a chance. I'm a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan. I just think he's 6'5", step-in three-point shooter, very, very efficient in ball screen offense, never gets rattled, and an elite defender. I think he has a chance to be outstanding.
What are some of the drawbacks? You were talking about not being able to look a guy in the eye face-to-face in a meeting and seeing a guy right now play in front of you. Outside of that, what's the biggest drawback, and how much of a gamble does that make all the guys in the NBA making these decisions?
Well, they've seen these guys play forever. I mean, they've seen them play since grassroots basketball. They've seen them play every single minute of every game they've played on tape. They've probably had some of them in workouts, whether it's in Santa Barbara, whether it's in Las Vegas, whether it's in Los Angeles. So, they've seen them, but, like here's a perfect example. Anthony Edwards, he has that workout that was on TV with Tyrese Maxey. If you watch those two workouts, you take Tyrese Maxey in a heartbeat. Tyrese Maxey was world-class shape. He was making shots. He had great bounce. He had great enthusiasm. He had great energy. If that was the first time you saw Anthony Edwards, you'd see a big physical specimen who's 6'5", 6'9" wingspan, strong, powerful. But he'd do anything in that workout, you'd say, woof. So you got to go back to the tape. Now, Anthony Edwards, he's a 29% three-point shooter. Will he be a better three-point shooter? He needs to be. So every guy has an if, and that's why a big thing for these guys and who's going to really make it and when they're going to make it is the organization they get drafted by. Tyler Hero gets drafted by the Heat. Perfect fit, great culture, great identity. Boom, he steps in. You put another guy, he's not as good a culture. He doesn't improve in the same way.
Seth Greenberg with us on ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team. And Seth, you're talking about, of course, a lot of the focus is on the lottery picks, but of course you guys are all over all the picks that are going to be going on in this NBA draft. And so there's some local adjacent interest, for us here in Albuquerque, some guys from the Mountain West that might have a potential to go later on, a guy like Malachi Flynn or Sam Merrill. Just as far as some of the later guys, maybe some of the Mountain West ones, who are some of those guys that you have your eye on?
Yeah, Malachi Flynn's interesting. He's a little undersized at 6'1", but he's a terrific hard-nosed defender. He can get the ball anywhere he wants, anytime. He can shoot the three. Like Malachi Flynn, I think he's battling for the end of the first round with the Cassius Winstons of the world. I think both terrific point guards. I think Cassius is the best ball screen point guard in the draft. But, I think that Malachi Flynn is a winning player. He's got a toughness. He's got a maturity. He's fiercely competitive defensively. A little undersized, but we've seen Fred VanVleet as a 6-footer have a tremendous career in the league. Then you've got, Sam Merrill, who's a world-class shooter who's not afraid to take and make big shots. He would be towards the end of the second round, but, I think he's a guy that is on people's radars, and because you can stretch the defense and create a little bit of separation, you're going to be in the conversation, at the end of the second round. But he'll probably be competing for opportunities with Mason Jones, with Emmanuel Quickly, with some guys like that if you're looking for a two-guard.
Cassius Winston is an interesting one. I mean, certainly one of the more household names in college basketball, had this unbelievable career at Michigan State. Why do you think he is towards the bottom of the first round, kind of in that expected area?
Well, defensively, he doesn't have the body, but he did, Jalen Brunson, but he's terrific. He's a terrific player. He's a terrific person. He's got a great feel, great vision, can really, really shoot the ball, so you have to defend him. And you talk about if you want to be a running team and play ahead of the defense, he advanced passes as well as any guard in the draft. Defensively, that is a concern. He's not a physical defender. But I think he can compete hard enough to keep the ball in front.
Couple more minutes with Seth Greenberg here on the Daniels Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline. And Seth, I got to go there. Got to ask you about one guy, LaMelo Ball, the guy who scored 92 points for Chino Hills High School, a school I'm familiar with, and you're familiar with as well, obviously. He went to 2 years of high school. He's played overseas professionally. What are your thoughts on him?
Look, he's got as good a vision as any player in the draft. He sees plays before they happen. He's got legitimate, size. He's got a handle. The problem is he's a high-risk, high-reward passer. He averaged, 10 assists a game, but he had 6 assists. So that's to me is a concern. The second concern is, his shot selection. So, it is so important for LaMelo Ball to get in the right organization with the right veteran players that can kind of get him away from his dad a little bit, to be honest with you, and get him to stand on his own 2 feet and understand, son, you got to defend. You got to make better decisions. This is not a show. We're playing to win. We're trying to win championships. We're trying to advance to the playoffs. Whatever that team's stage is in terms of their development. But he's really talented, and he's going to put up numbers. The question is, are they going to be winning numbers?
Seth, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate you joining us out here in Albuquerque, and especially this close to the draft. We really appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, guys. Be safe now. I know things are a little rough out there. Be careful.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate that, Seth Greenberg. And I mean,
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, and Scott. I mean, that's what he mentioned it there. There's not a Zion Williamson in this draft. There's not that clear number one pick. So this one is going to be a little bit different, along with all those other elements, like not having the summer league, not having this time for the rookies to get acclimated. But just looking at the draft, there's a lot of talent at the top, but there's not necessarily that consensus pick. Like I've been looking at mock drafts today. And, you can look at a few different ones, and they all have a different number one pick on there.
No, and that's true because I brought up LaMelo Ball. He's on one of the ones that I saw. James Wiseman was on the other, and the one that I got off of ESPN.com has Anthony Edwards. So, take your pick on mock drafts, and you're going to have a different number one.